Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good.
Thank you so much for coming and being here today.
I'm Mark Spreitzer, and I'm state representative for the 45th district in the Wisconsin State Assembly.
Since this is our first virtual installment of Pizza and Politics, we can't have pizza with us here today, so we just wanted to start off with a quick icebreaker, see the mood. But what do you feel about pineapple pizza?
I like pineapple pizza.
Mhm. I'm same. I think it's a good combination. So we can get started with the questions. What has your career been like in public service, and why did you choose that?
So I was first elected to the Wisconsin State Assembly in 2014 and just got reelected earlier this month to my fourth term. Before that, I served on the city council in Beloit for 4 years. So I was elected there in 2011. My path to running for office really started with activism around issues that I cared about. And going back to middle school and high school, I was pretty interested in politics. The 2000 election with Bush and Gore was pretty formative for me. And then as I got into high school, we had the Iraq War, which I was very interested in that issue. We had 9/11, so foreign policy was kind of a huge driving factor there. And then I graduated college wanting to continue to help good people get elected. I worked for Senator Russ Feingold in the 2010 election as a field organizer. And after that election, when Russ had lost and I was looking around and I said, how do I, help continue to move Wisconsin in the right direction? And that was the point where I decided to not just try to get other people elected, but to actually run for office myself. And so I ran for the city council. And in the 4 years that I was on the city council, I really got to see the decisions that the state legislature was making and how that was impacting our communities, and some of the instances where the state was telling us as a city council what we couldn't do in our own community. And I didn't like that they were making those decisions for us. And so 4 years down the line, when my state representative moved up and ran for the state Senate and left that seat open, I decided that if I really wanted to make the changes that I was looking for, I couldn't just be in local government and have the state tell me what we couldn't do. I had to actually run and try to change state government.
Right, that is so cool. I think that's a really big factor is the events you surround yourself with. This past summer, I was working with one of the state senate candidates. I feel like that was my first glance into politics and how that works. It's interesting, and that's why I was really interested in starting State of the Students, because I think it's very important to know what happens behind the scenes. Kind of just bouncing off of that, what has been your most rewarding thing as working through city council and state senate assembly? What have you been most rewarded with?
The most rewarding thing is being able to help people. One of the challenges of the state legislature is that it is more partisan, and so it can be harder to get things done. I've been in the minority party the entire time I've been in the state assembly, so actually changing state law is really hard. So sometimes I can be more effective helping people one-on-one with situations they're dealing with state government. Here in the state assembly, this past year has really changed what the most rewarding part has been, because as I said, it's really hard to pass legislation, but helping people who need to interact with state government can be incredibly rewarding. And over the past 7-8 months, as we've been in the COVID pandemic, unfortunately, a ton of people have been hurting and have needed to interact with state government in ways they haven't necessarily before. My staff and I have been able to help a lot of people get unemployment benefits, get small business grants, get other kinds of assistance, help with eviction, foreclosure, car repossession. And I wish nobody was in that circumstance to begin with, but being able to have a real person and hear their story and know that I've been able to help them, that's rewarding because it makes the job worth it. And it especially makes the job worth it when you're in the minority and feeling like you can't pass bills, but you can still help individual people who live in your district.
Absolutely. That's really fantastic to know. And I'm sure that that's such a difficult job, but yeah, it's great that you can have rewards that really overpower that. And it's interesting to know the scale of issues that you work on. That's not something I was super aware of for city council and stuff. So that's really interesting. Now, off of that, as the minority caucus chair of the state assembly, what is your role and what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
So my role as caucus chair And this would mostly be similar, whether I was in the majority or the minority. As I said, we're in the minority party, so I'm the minority caucus chair. But that means that I've been elected by my fellow Democrats in the state assembly to this leadership role. And first and foremost, caucus is sort of both a noun and a verb. We are the Democratic caucus, and when we get together and talk about issues and make plans, we call it caucusing. I run those meetings. That is my job, is to run the meetings and to try to use those meetings to develop plans for how to advance our collective democratic agenda in the state assembly. Day to day, there are days where we meet in caucus and there are days where we don't, but when we don't, I'm still trying to stay up to speed on what's going on, send out emails to keep in touch with people, talk one-on-one with colleagues. And when the full assembly is going to be meeting and debating legislation, I'm also thinking about what are the procedural tools that we have available to influence the discussion, because as the minority, we don't get to decide what bills even get a vote or get to be debated. So oftentimes there's an issue that we really care about, and if the majority doesn't care about it, they don't ever have to schedule it for debate. And so we have to then think of how can we get this really important topic into the discussion, even though it's a discussion the majority would rather not have at all.
So, going off like having more people involved in politics, something that's important to us is youth engagement. How do you work to promote youth engagement in the political process?
One of the things I try to do, and it's definitely become harder during COVID, so I appreciate opportunities like this, is normally I would try to visit a number of different school classrooms, whether that's at the high school level, going to a government or history teacher's classroom, or visiting with fourth grade classes when they make a field trip to the Capitol, or really, any grade level where I can get in and talk to folks. I mean, I have kindergarten, first, second grade classes where they'll bring me in to just read a picture book to the kids, but as part of that, we get to at least expose the kids to the idea that I'm in government and kind of beginning to talk about a little bit of what that means.
That brings us to our final question of the day, which is, why do you think that students should take time out of their busy schedules to come and learn about the government?
I think students should take time to learn about the government because whether students are old enough to vote now or will be soon, you're going to have the opportunity to vote and influence elections. You don't even have to be old enough to vote to be influencing the political process. And even if you don't learn about it, even if you aren't influencing it, it's influencing your life. Whether or not your family members have certain rights is up for a vote. Whether or not you doing certain things is going to be criminalized or not is up for a vote. There's a lot that we're deciding every day that impacts your freedoms, your lives, the financial, economic fortunes of your family.
I was listening to what you were saying, and I think as I grow up these years and the past years, it's been really eye-opening to understand how much the government, how much power it holds over my life and my communities and society. I do think the youth need to know more about these policies and legislation that is passed throughout our government because it impacts all of us. And I think as we grow up and from a young age, people should know the importance of this and what your role is. So thank you so much for coming. I think that was our last question. So thank you for coming for our first Pizza in Politics. It's been fun. We didn't have real pizza, but hopefully next time we do meet, we do talk over some real pizza and pineapple pizza.
Thank you, and have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.